Let's hope I'm ready.
All right, here we go. I'm recording. Ooh, it's gonna be like ding, 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 ding.
Hi, guys. Hi, Crystal.
Hey, Crystal.
Hi.
Hi. It's so fun to see you.
I should say hi. Here, wait, I don't have any.
Hi,
There we go.
how's baby Kelly?
She's getting big.
So excited. Hi, Jeff.
Who's getting big? Wait, what?
Oh, Amanda, yeah.
Amanda's having a girl.
Finally.
Amanda, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. How
Amanda, that is
exciting.
still my favorite kindergarten Zoom ever. When Owen was like, for show and tell, like there's a baby in mommy's tummy. And Lisa and I were like, what? Are you allowed to share that?
I know. Lisa's
That's so
reaction
awesome.
was amazing.
Don't push it.
Oh, congratulations. That's so exciting.
So fun. Hi, Jackson. Hi, Louise.
Oh.
Ouch. Ouch.
Jackson, you can't push buttons.
Oh.
What?
We're at 24, Wendy.
So fun. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Yes, I'll go ahead and start. And we did this last week, so if you were here last week, I'll just kind of follow the same format. I thought people might have had more questions, or if you weren't able to come, it's a great place to kind of ask us more of those questions.
Wait, real quick, Wendy,
Oh.
do you want me to mute everyone while you do your intro, and then we can unmute for
Sure.
questions?
That'd be great. So,
Okay, you're good. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait.
there, I got it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a very strange time. We all can recognize that, but we are trying to do everything we can to open in a cautious, safe way. So we've taken some steps that we tried to share 2 weeks ago, and just really quickly wanted to also say, if you haven't gathered it by now, that Mara Mose, who is a board certified child psychologist, has agreed to be an assisting director for me, and she has been immensely helpful as we go through and have been eating, sleeping, zombie walking through the last 8 weeks of planning and trying to figure out what's going on in our little acorn world. So I thought what I'd do is just kind of go through a couple of the plans that I mentioned in the booklet, and then we can open it up and take questions specific to something that we haven't thought to readily answer. But we feel strongly that school can be safe, and we need to follow the protocols and the guidelines that were given to us by the CDC and the Texas Health and Services Organization. It was a 13-page document that we really absorbed over and over again to see, like, how does this look in the real world? And we decided what we would take from that is, to start on the very cautious end and be able to relax as we're allowed to relax, or where it seems appropriate. And I think in hindsight now, like, that was a great plan, because look at the spikes that have happened. And if we had not gone ahead and done the stricter planning, we'd be back at square one. So I'm glad that we did go ahead and make that move and it makes me feel even better about our plans. We will take temperatures. We've gotten 9 touchless thermometers that each class can have their own. What we're planning for is that you will drive up through the drive-through like normal. What we're asking is that the parent get out of the vehicle and unbuckle their child so that we don't have teachers going from car to car to car, possibly transmitting anything. But you will get your child out and present them to us, and we'll take their temperature and then receive them into the school or into the playground. We plan to start outside. We're going to have hopefully touch-free hand sanitizer dispensers. They're proving difficult to track down right now, but that's our plan. And we're also increasing the times for our drop-offs. So in the morning, we'll have teachers outside at 8:30, and you'll have, I believe I put in there till 9:15, so a good solid 45 minutes for drop-off, and that can kind of stagger groups as well. We are also fencing in part of the south side of the school that includes the kindergarten playground and extends it in front of the porch that's closer to Broadway for the honeybee or ladybug or red apple class. And that's going to be an enclosed area. So if we need to, we could also have drop off on the south side of the building for kindergarten, and they could come straight to their own playground and be, have plenty of room to be spaced around. And as we look at numbers and things, if we need to do that for other classes, we have now, if you divided the playground in 2 sides and 2 areas back there, we have lots more playground space, which who can argue with more playground space? That's always a bonus. So yeah, we're planning to start outside. I know a lot of people are worried about the start of school being different in how we always welcomed our families into the school. If your child was having separation anxiety, you're welcome to come in and be with them. We don't want to take away that component, but we do want to do it outside. So if children are having difficulty in the beginning and you need to stay with them, then we will just stay outside for that, that class for, however long it takes to kind of figure those things out. Let me see where my mind is going on this.
Do you want me to?
Sure, jump in.
So, we've had a lot of questions about kind of maintaining the magic that is the acorn. And we have been very intentional about doing that. So the other thing that we're considering with all of our outdoor spaces is doing as much outside learning time as possible. Snack outside, having just sort of a free play area where kids can go, we have our normal big fantastic playground, we have our kindergarten playground, and then having these free spaces that we can do large group in, or that we can take our small groups in to give kids more space and have some more normalcy outside. We've had a lot of questions about masks as well. We are going to have all of our staff will be wearing masks. All of our staff will also be COVID tested prior to the beginning of the year, so that we know that even if somebody doesn't have symptoms, that they are healthy. We are not asking children to wear masks. If you want your child to wear a mask, that is totally fine. We would welcome that. And if your child does not want to wear a mask or is not comfortable wearing a mask, that's okay, because our teachers will have them. And Wendy is trying to figure out how to sew masks that are clear at the mouth so that kids can see faces and, the full face. We are going to ask teachers during home visits. We do want our home visits to be outside in your yard, ideally. That's better for our teachers, and again, kind of promotes our outdoor acorn year. But our teachers will have their masks too, so that, the kids are familiar with kind of what the teachers will look like when they show up. We've had a few families who've come through for tours where we're all masked up at the door, like eager for children in the building. And we've had a couple of children who initially sort of look at us a little bit hesitant, and within moments are totally fine, because, you know, we talk about, how do you know that we're smiling? And look, you can see that our eyes are all crinkly, or our voices sound happy. And we've done some of that with kids when they've come for tours to make them more comfortable. So we're planning to be very intentional about how to manage that with littles.
We've gotten 2 downloaded books that I think are really good, that I think we'll do a video of these, reading them, and have the teachers bring them on a home visit as well. That are just, they're age appropriate, and I think done in a way, you know, sometimes even though something is marketed for our age child, it's not necessarily the message I would want, but I'm very comfortable with those at this point, unless I find something better. We thought we would do videos ahead of home visits where they could see their teachers with their masks on, take their masks off, put their masks back on. Also videos on hand washing, maybe a tour through the school and the places where we wash hands once it comes closer to time. Yeah, so that's one aspect of it. Our ratio of 5 to 1, I think, is going to be better than 5 to 1. I think that, you know, understandably, people are hesitant. And what I hope to put in place, I don't want to combine classes and make classes larger than they want to be. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of having smaller cohorts and things. So I think if we have the infrastructure in place to have, you know, the same groups, but, you know, smaller amounts, but we still want to promote the socialization aspect of school, we can do those things in a very healthy way. And then at spring semester, you know, or if we are inundated with more tours, I've got 2 scheduled this week and people want to join in, we have everything in place to be able to expand our enrollment to a reasonable amount. So we don't want to be fully stocked, I don't think, this year, as we're learning and trying some things out. So
the other
let's
thing
see. Go ahead.
That Wendy and I have talked about that we think is a huge advantage that we have compared to what some of the larger schools or school districts are doing is we have always been small and we have always had a very low student teacher ratio. So we're not having to cut class, we're not having to turn people away to minimize our class sizes. We already were doing this 5 to 1 ratio. We already had a ton of hand washing that we were doing as a school anyway. Kids would come in from the playground and wash hands. They wash hands after the bathroom. They wash them before and after snack. I mean, we were already doing a lot of those things anyway. So that will obviously continue. That will feel the same for kids. They're not used to coming in and having, 30 kids and one teacher. They're used to it being small. So that will get to continue. And there are things that we can do that are developmentally appropriate to help children distance without it being
Punitive. We don't want
without it being scary. We can have a hexagonal table that has 3 chairs at it instead of 6, and kids can still sit there together at a safe distance from each other without feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't be with people. If we normally have 3 people in a reading loft, maybe we only have 1 this year, but maybe there's another spot where we have 2 people on this piece of the playground equipment. The kids are used to seeing those symbols around school anyway, 2 friends here, 1 friend here. We'll have a lot of those around so that they know kind of where people can gather, different supplies for different cohorts of kids to avoid mixing, but all done in a way that just fits in with the Acorn philosophy without being scary or punitive.
I think that what we would want you to know is that we plan for this still to be a loving, safe, nurturing environment. If your child falls down and scrapes a knee, we are going to comfort them and take care of them. But I'm trying to explain to teachers too, it just might look different where you're not going to have a kiddo on your lap reading a story. We're going to figure out a different way to do that, because I think most of the research now is pointing that we need to worry a little more about our teachers keeping their distance. The children are going to have a little more freedom of socialization. It's not going to look as stark as we might envision with little, we couldn't do cubicles or things like that. That would not be needed for one, but also it would be detrimental. Like just like you wouldn't hear someone saying no running, we're not going to be like, don't sit next to your friend. We're going to figure out gentle ways to bring those reminders up and keep the kids on the move and happily playing, doing all those great social skills. I've been hoarding a little more since last week too. I was going to report on that. I have secured some Clorox wipes. I was real worried about those last week, but I've gotten a couple cases of those today. Just trying to make sure that we have the right tools that we need. And last week, someone asked about UV lights in our duct system. And after researching that, I'm super excited about this REMI system that we are going to have installed. I think that is kind of amazing. I showed it to my husband and he wants to put it in our house now. So if you have questions about that, happy to talk about what that method actually entails. And I don't know, where are we then? I'm sure I've missed something. I've been thinking this through so many ways. I'm trying to figure it out. Oh, Michelle wants to see the names of those books. I downloaded them online. So they were written by, I think, someone from Missouri. Child Care Connections. This one's called Masks Aren't Scary for ages 0 to 3. And this one is wear face masks and stop germs. And then you can tell it's kind of a superhero theme. But again, I think children are going to see masks as they go out into the world. And, Mara said, we've seen some hesitation. I would say that oftentimes when a child comes to tour the Acorn, they're a little hesitant anyway, because suddenly people are just all attention on them. And we've heard them relax. They hear it in your voice. They tend to adapt very well. And I think that if we handle it well, we're going to make it easier for them to adapt to those things. So I'm happy to open it up for any questions or specific comments. And don't hesitate to suggest things, because that really worked out well for us last week. So
I think everybody's muted. So if you have a question, I think you can unmute yourself, but if you can't, go like this or something and I'll find you and unmute you.
As far as the what's going to be in place, as far as, is there going to be extra cleaning? What about outside stuff? Will that get cleaned, like the toys that they touch outside, or how will that work?
Good question. So certain outside toys, they've said not to necessarily worry about it. If you're out there playing and you come inside, there's a certain period of time they're saying don't worry about wasting your Clorox wipes on the plastic, on the slides or different things. More specific things like bicycles, yes, we will have tools available for that. In the classrooms, we do intend to have some extra staffing to be able, on top of our great ratio, other people to be able to go through and be kind of spot cleaning, or to be watching for the finger in the nose and making sure children are whisked off to wash hands, quickly, and just reminders, still in our Acorn way. But I was just telling, our housekeeper was here and was asking me, and I was telling her about the HVAC thing, but also we're getting some UV lights that are portable that you can plug in and set up as a timer that after school that can disinfect, I think a 200 square foot room. So anything the light touches gets disinfected as well. So it works on the carpeting, it works on things that aren't easy to put in a mesh bag and dip into a bleach solution. So.
And our plan would be, we have that hour between morning classes and afternoon classes. And that's a time, obviously, that we would be going in and doing major cleaning, but then throughout the day.
Especially high touch areas.
Yes, that's where those portable UV lights will be enormously helpful, and the HVAC system that will allow us to be eliminating pathogens like in the air. But then we're going to have little buckets that we already, we've spent our summer kind of setting these things up where, so if the ladybugs are there in the morning and these are the blocks that they're using, then at the end of the ladybug day or while they're doing snack, those are already getting cleaned, and they'll come out for the ladybugs again the next day, but we'll have a different bin of blocks for the red apples who would be in there later that same day. So we're setting up kid-friendly boxes so that we can literally just be rotating things through for the day, so each little cohort within the group has its own set of supplies. So and Katie, I see your hand up.
Hey guys, I was wondering about the face masks. Like if the littles want to wear their face mask, but then, like every kid in the world is not going to keep it on all day. So if they decide that they don't want to wear their face mask or they want to take it off, are you guys going to have their same bin or bucket or clothes bag or something that they can return it to us so we can get it, cleaned and washed or switched out?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Just we'd probably put it in a Ziploc bag and send it home. We'll have their little divider things. We're going to ask people not to send in backpacks. We don't want stuff coming into us necessarily. Mm-hmm. So when they do come on home visits as well, we're going to ask for 2 sets of clothing in a Ziploc bag so that we have plenty of extras. I don't think I mentioned it. I'm looking into these kind of button-up long-sleeve smocks for teachers too. I think in the policy, Mara said it was her favorite line that I said, in case a child shares a face full of moisture, either from the eyes, nose, or mouth, that the teacher can take it off and that can go in the wash, and we'll have spares to be able to put right on. So we're keeping as clean and sterile as possible. Because I don't know if y'all know, we get our shoulders nose wiped on quite a bit sometimes. so it actually is going to be kind of nice to have quick presto changeo things.
All right, cool, thanks.
And Wendy, we have one question that says, if schools were to close, what would be the next steps in regards to online learning?
Mm-hmm. So, we learned a lot in the spring, and, we ended up deciding that we weren't ready to ask for tuition for what we had not planned for. And I think that we've taken what we learned in the fall, and we have been working on adapting that. Like if we had to stop, which I really, I don't know that the state or anybody would close schools entirely again at this point. I don't know. We shall see. But we want to make sure that we have a plan in place that includes curriculum kits. I think we got a lot of great feedback on activity bags, that those were popular, just having materials and supplies along with ideas to do with those. And so we're kind of planning out for the year curriculum kits that if we're in school, we can use those here at school. But at a moment's notice, we are going to have those same materials available that a child could have at home. And if there were, you would have a scope and sequence of, okay, this is what we're doing this week, and here's what we'd like you to do, or you can do this on your own, or meet on this day at this time, and we're going to have an experiment, bring these materials, and you can do it along with us at home, kind of thing. And there will be a component of that, like if they're in school and they have their teachers in their class, where we will keep that socialization. But I think what we found out was those were more valued when they were fun and participatory, like when children were, going to, on a scavenger hunt, bring back something yellow, and suddenly the whole screen turned yellow because everybody was holding up something yellow. Or an alphabet find, or just different little things that kept them moving, because we also didn't want to be pushing screen time in a way that we weren't comfortable with. Mm-hmm. I know that some people really needed more academic items to keep children occupied while they were also working from home. So I've been contemplating how we could do hands-on concrete materials, similar to games or folder activities that we might use in a classroom, but that a child could use independently at home without, too much of needing mom there constantly to do as well. So we would hope that we would be able to transition to that smoothly. That's the plan. And then I think there's also some people who want to wait until the spring, and so they're interested in just the curriculum kit not being tied to a specific class. And we're going to look into setting that up in case you would want to, purchase a kit of activities with the actual hands-on items and the games and materials that support those things. It's just one of the plans.
And I would just add to that too, that part of our goal in setting up fall is obviously we're doing everything that we possibly can to avoid the possibility, to avoid potentially needing to close. But we are also aware that there may be times where someone in the school calls us and says, hey, we've had this exposure or we've had this positive test, and that class or that group or whatever would need to then be moved to a distance learning period while people are, making sure that other kids aren't getting sick and that kind of thing. And so part of our goal is to be able to keep all of our teachers with us, obviously, so that they can then seamlessly make that transition, so that teachers can still be providing small group activities or large group activities through either Zoom, or we're looking to Google Classroom as an alternative, so that your children are still getting their existing teachers and their existing class as much as possible, and we're sticking with the curriculum of that particular class. Last year everybody was scrambling suddenly across the world to figure out how to do this and do this well. And that's also part of why we put our tuition structure the way that we did this year, where you can, if you choose to do it by semester or by year, because that's how we pay our teachers. And our goal is to be able to keep our same teachers for everybody. So our hope is that if we should need to do that, it would be a very seamless transition that we could just roll right into, and then ideally roll right back to school and have everybody be healthy.
I'm interested to know, as thoughts bubble up in the middle of the night usually, sometimes it might be that a person has traveled and, out of responsibility, you're like, we're going to quarantine for 2 weeks. We could also have those same type activities available. And, maybe there's a way that, we take an iPad in the classroom so they can kind of see their friends. There's also the possibility that that makes them really sad that they're not here with us. So again, from the psychology point of view, we need to make sure that we're meeting mental health needs as well. We don't want to cause more harm. So if it's needed, ask us for it and we will do what we can. I think that's something that we've always tried to do. If we can meet a need, we're going to try to meet it. So that's one of the things. Mara was starting to say something, and it reminded me also to tell you that we're going to also have individual kits for each child here at school. So they're going to have their own toolbox that's going to have their own set of scissors, their own set of crayons, their own set of Play-Doh. We're going to have 2 days in August when teachers are here that we're just going to make massive amounts of Play-Doh and give everybody a set. And so those kinds of materials would also be available to take home, because I know that was one thing I heard in the spring was, oh, we would have loved to have done that, but we didn't have paints or we didn't have this or what have you. So that's why we started to try to supply, kind of weird but easy materials for making some of those kinds of things. And so that was also something that we've brainstormed and thought, what would be needed in a pinch at home, like a set of watercolors, a set of markers, or, our chunky crayons we can make ourselves, definitely Play-Doh. But then we could, if you had a meeting with your teacher, she could say like, okay, everybody go grab your Play-Doh and we're going to play this game with it. Right now, I want everybody to roll out a snake and make the letter A, or, some fashion of a guided activity, knowing that everybody has the same materials and tools to work with. But we'd be interested to know what you hoped for or needed. I think one thing that I ended up sending at one point were the page protectors for practicing writing and things, rather than having to print thousands upon thousands of sheets of, paper. I don't know, just interested.
Okay, Kyle, you have a question? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I think having a more robust kit is essential, for at home. I think it's likely that we will see a closure more than just a possibility. If we've already been asked to stay at home again, and with the gatherings down to 100 people, from the public school side of things, you can't operate a public school under those parameters and limit your student population to 100. I know that doesn't exactly translate to Acorn, but I do think, preparations for at home, have to be made. With that being said, how would it be safe to say there will be much more increased teacher to student FaceTime? Typically the classes, other than kindergarten, the class day is just under 3 hours a day. But with only one Zoom play date a week for 30 minutes, that doesn't translate curricularly to me. A student to teacher thing. I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to word it correctly. I could put arts and crafts activities together for my daughter without needing to pay tuition for that. So where does the value in a semester or yearly tuition come once the lockdown happens?
Well, I think that was one reason that we did kind of stop. And we ended up letting the teachers go. They could collect more money for a longer period of time if we went ahead and did that. And so those who remained were kind of jumping through a few hoops of a learning curve. And that's one reason where just in the planning of it is trying to plan more of a scope and sequence, for one, of that more aligns with a school year and what was planned in a classroom environment. I totally understand that. And I think that's one reason we're looking into other options besides Zoom, Google Classroom being one, and having it set up at the beginning of the year. So that is actually the way that you can already see what the plan is for the week for your child's class while they're in school, and more of a way to follow on than maybe our weekly newsletter or kind of the highlights that would go home of these are the books that we're going to be reading this week. It would be a little more formatted to share those things in a way that you can see a little bit more of, like, Monday, here's what we're doing. Tuesday, here's what we're doing. Wednesday, and have that translate in a more planned way at home with the supporting materials for it. So, that is a worry, like for a preschool and a child development place. We certainly did not want to just suddenly be about paper and pencil worksheets. So it's been a process to try to evaluate and figure out how to meet that need in a developmentally appropriate way. So I guess that it is perhaps somewhat inevitable that they end up closing some schools. I just really I think it's going to be more in case there's a case. And, if Alamo Heights were to have a case, we wouldn't have to close because that would not necessarily affect us. If most of the information coming out is that children, for many reasons, benefit from being in an environment. I think schools are going to struggle with how to do that in the spaces they have. So my hope is that we're an example. Yeah.
And I think the other balance too is, you know, with preschoolers in particular, we don't want to have it set up where, okay, now we're home, and so we're asking 3-year-olds to be on the computer 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's not what their attention span will do, and that's not in line with what we know to be good for them developmentally. But that's where we can use our platform more specifically to have, you know, maybe it's a small group, you know, a teacher has her 3 or 4 hummingbirds or bluebears or whatever, and they do their small group activities through Google Classroom or through Zoom. They have a large group activity, and then we have specific extension learning activities that can be done at home with the combination of kits and materials and things like that we have available, so that kids are getting the face-to-face with their teachers and they're getting the social aspect of being with their classroom, but while also having things that they can do at home that don't require them to sit in front of the computer, you know, for hours.
Yeah, I think that we heard that there was a lot of frustration from a class of 20 children if they didn't get their turn to talk.
Yeah.
Like that was definitely a complaint.
No, it's definitely not a mystery that, you know, preschool is not designed for a virtual experience.
Right.
So that's where I guess that's where the root of my question lies. Knowing that it's a play-based learning environment with a very strong social component. You know, how do you recreate that virtually? You know, with a required tuition. You know, stapled with that. And I think it is inevitable. I mean, if we just opened up, if the state just opened up for probably maybe a little less than a month, and we've already been locked down again, you know, to each his own. I think, you know, anytime we continue to open up, there's going to be that lockdown. And most of our families probably have siblings that attend different schools, you know, so if Alamo Heights is closed down, and I'm not so sure that it would just be, well, there's only a case in our school district, and so that's why we're shutting down. I think the way state travel is concerned will dictate that, but you have parents with multi-aged kids on different campuses, you know, having 2 students at home from Alamo Heights, but one that, you know, you're dropping off and picking up from Acorn, and other families in that same boat. You know, the question of transfer, you know, germ transfer there is probably pretty strong as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a conundrum, and I would just tell you that we have really kind of looked forward into how to make it something. It would be like if you were buying or purchasing homeschool curriculum, essentially. Like, we would hope that we are providing a curriculum kit for at-home use that, you know, depending on the age group, does not demand like every second of a parent's attention as well. It's too high up. Like, I have some ideas up there, you know, but things that are still going to promote what we feel strongly about: fine motor development, gross motor development, as well as some cognitive gains in a methodical way. So there are things that we would be doing in the classroom, and hope that there'd be a little grace in there as we try to do this. But, you know, just know that we are interested and willing to take suggestions and ideas and really incorporate them as best we can.
Jerry, it looks like you have a question too. Hold on. Wait, you're mute. Hold on, Jerry, you're muted. Hold on.
How's that?
That's better.
Okay, that was my fault. Pilot. So I really like what you said about all the things about taking temperatures and encouraging mask use. And it sounds like you're making the best of a very unusual and difficult situation. I didn't hear anything about how you're handling asymptomatic transmission. It sounds like taking temperatures will handle people who have some symptoms and keeping your kids home if they have a sneeze or a cough. That all makes sense. But what about the kid who he's the day before he's about to get a symptom and nobody knows about it, and all of a sudden it happens in the middle of the day, and then possibly multiple kids are catching it from another kid? Is there basically there's no realistic way to handle that, and so you're trying not to worry about it?
No, we do plan to have sort of I'm sure you've seen some of these checklists for parents each day as you're dropping off. Kind of run through this checklist, like these 5 things. Is anything different here? Is your child lethargic? Has their appetite? You know, we want, as much as we're trying to do, we need families to also try to rise to a responsible level on that and not medicate your child and send them to school. You know, it's something that in the past years, you know, inevitably a child will say, well, my mom gave me medicine, but then I came to school. You know, it is way important this year to not do those things and try to be, you know, kind of have some ownership over the community as well, and how we're kind of looking out for each other. So we will be kind of each day with the temperature check saying, like, have you done the 5, you know, kind of check in on how everybody's feeling today in your house. Are you feeling strange? And just try to be, you know, accountable for our teachers as well, doing the same thing when they come to school and take their temperatures. As far as a child coming down with symptoms at school.
No symptoms is actually what I was asking about. You're handling the symptoms great, but if there are no symptoms but somebody is contagious, there's no way to handle that, right?
Well, how do you know? Like, I don't.
Well, but
I can hope is that these things we're putting into place are trying to help the asymptomatic carrier.
The only way to handle the asymptomatic carrier, according to the CDC, is with masks.
Oh, yeah, but they're also not really pushing them on children. So that's why with the children, we're making it.
Okay, question answered.
Yeah.
May I ask another?
Please.
Are you going to have any extra paperwork to protect the school with waivers of some kind, or worrying about, you know, if somebody does come down with something at the school?
No, not.
I mean, we have our normal liability. Is that what you mean, like a liability waiver?
I guess so. I've heard of waivers being signed at rallies and things like that.
I think that when you look at the bottom line of most of those kinds of things, and I have a couple lawyers in the group here, feel free to pop in. I don't know how enforceable those are, kind of period. I don't know. I mean, we are, it's kind of a good faith thing, you know, we're trying our best to do what we can. I mean, it's like we do when we have children with severe allergies, and we do what we can to, you know, try to make sure we're safe. Like we're certainly being intentional in on our effort. I mean, that's a hard one. How do you?
Well, thanks.
How do you trust the world?
Thoughtful. I really appreciate. I'm sure a lot of people appreciate how thoughtful you're being about this and how careful. Thank you.
Roger, you have a question?
Yes, no, I just want to say that I commend you. You're doing a great job in terms of how you develop cleaning protocols for the school. I think you have a lot of redundancies, which is great. You're going to minimize the risk of transmission. So that's all you can do. I'm a pediatrician. I work in the ICU, and that's very similar to what we're doing. So I think our kids are going to be as safe as they can possibly can. And in terms of the symptomatic transmission, that's just a reality. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to see this fall that we're going to have some exposure And as long as you have a protocol, which seems like you have, going to a remote model for 14 days, I think that's all you can do. I think the plan is very sound, and I feel that my son's going to be very safe going there, and we're all going to be safe.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
endorsement.
I was really hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah, you know, we have been overthinking sometimes, we feel like, but I mean, our goal is everybody's health and happiness here, so we're trying to put things into place. And you know, it's, you know, I've told people often, there's a spectrum of how we see families responding to the pandemic, and you have on one end of the spectrum the family that comes completely gloved and masked, and they take their activity bag to the car and quarantine it for 3 days before they look at it. And then you have the family that walks up and runs up to the door and practically licks the window. So it is a range, and we're trying to meet on the more conservative, cautious, you know, end of it, not only for the children, but for our teachers and staff as well. We are putting in 10 days of paid sick leave, because we don't want teachers to come to school if they are feeling sick, or if they need to quarantine or what have you. We're trying to put things in place that we have, you know, enough ratio here at school for teachers that if someone is out, we've already got staff on for our ratio to still be great. Like, and that teachers will be flexible, and be able to, someone already in the school will be our substitute rather than bringing in an outside person as well. That's part of our goal. But these are all good questions. Keep them coming. Like they keep us thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Serena, thank you. This Serena is from Walden Pond, so
I have a quick question about your schedule.
Mhm.
Do you guys know if you have your daily schedule or your annual schedule available?
I do have my annual schedule available. I could email that to you, Serena. We're starting school early.
Yes,
We
August 17th.
decided to build in 3 extra weeks at the beginning of the school year, in case of some closures, or like, you know, I know that some universities are closing at Thanksgiving and not coming back. And if we have families with children who also have college siblings or something, they might be taking off. But, you know, we just wanted to try to build in some extra time on campus and see, but I can get you that. We are avoiding lunch bunch for the foreseeable future, just because in our lunch bunch scenarios, groups were mixing, and we want to try to sorry, I was just reading. We're just going to like keep it to the morning session, and then the afternoon session be separate, except for kindergarten, which is its own contained space. So they're the only ones that would still bring a lunch 2 days a week for the beginning of the year.
And do you have a daily schedule for what time you guys are going to be starting and what groups are going to be when? Are you going to be distancing them more, or is it going to be fairly same as
it's fairly the same schedule? We just will have an earlier drop-off time available, and we might move where they're dropped off or picked up depending on enrollment numbers. Michelle, I don't think you missed anything. I think all of our teachers and adults in the building will wear masks. We are not going to have visitors or adults in the building who are not on staff for a while. So we do ask, you know, if parents, if you're coming and staying on the playground, to please wear one.
Or like if a parent needs to come into the building to make a payment or something like that, or when people are coming for tours, we are asking them to wear masks when they need to come into the building in those scenarios.
Hopefully we can
You
avoid that.
as far as like socialization, are they going to stay with the same group of kids that are they going to stay within the same group of kids, or how will that work as far as?
So depending on the size of the class, they may need to be divided into different little cohorts, at least to start the year. That's our thinking. If it's a small class of 10 or under children, that's kind of its own little cohort. If it's a class, let's say we have a class of 20 with 4 teachers and a 5th who's in there kind of helping keep an eye out for the fingers and noses and also doing spot cleaning. Those groups would probably be divided into 2 sets of 10, and they would kind of travel in a little pack within their class so that they're not mixing as much. And we're still looking into the research. We've got another 6 weeks or so, but seeing if that needs to be for 2 weeks, does it need to be for a month? We're trying to remain flexible. I
like to see my teacher.
I know.
Oh.
I wish I'll come back this
Shiloh back there.
Sorry, guys. I'll mute myself. Oh, there's
Ooh. These are good questions. Keep asking them.
Oh, here's one. Tasha.
Oh, hello. Thank you. So our family's from New York, so we've been watching their numbers very closely, and as we're rising while they're falling, I don't think I'll be comfortable yet, depending on how the numbers go in the next 6 weeks. But it took them like 3 months to get their numbers kind of under control. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if there's any plans for the school for people who maybe want to be a part of the Acorn family, but maybe not until spring, or any plans like maybe I'll be comfortable doing playground time only and not doing the classroom time, or just like 3 months would bring me into October, November. If there's any way like that where maybe we could hold spots for later in the year.
Well, I've talked with a few people about that because, I think that that's a legitimate question and ask that, especially your enrollment fee, depending on enrollment numbers. And it's not like I am going out and shaking the trees trying to fill every spot in our school. I really am not.
No, and I understand you have to be able to plan because it's people's jobs.
It's people's jobs. And so I am looking at being flexible in a way that allows me, and also I'm not going to have all of my staff want to come back either, because some of them are of an age or an underlying health risk. Like, I'm going to have some shifting staffing, but I think I can do something with the enrollment numbers and the staffing to know that if, like I said, my hope is that we are able to be a model and people say, yes, I'm ready. The Acorn's done a great job. We're coming back in January for sure. That in January, if I have an influx of children who sat out the fall semester, that I can quickly put those things in place, the infrastructure's there, and we can easily expand to those numbers again. But with that being said, kind of thinking that those numbers are the ones who signed up this past fall, not necessarily that I'm going to go out and try to sign up 40 more children who are new to the Acorn. I think, and some people have said, like, we're going to go ahead and pay for the first semester, but we're not going to come until the second semester. Or, if you're only comfortable bringing them for playground time, that is your choice as a parent. Like, I'm not going to argue with what time you're comfortable with. Like, if you want them to be on the playground, and my hope is that they're outside at the start of the day for an hour to an hour and a half. And I've even, a few of the teachers I've talked to said, you know, plan your large groups outside, plan your snack outside. You can be outside and it's a beautiful day and you're not cooking because of the sun. Be outside, and I'd be totally for that. And I think there are people who would enjoy that, like an all day outside classroom. So the playground that we're enclosing on the south side of the building, I'm calling a loose parts playground. So it's going to be a little bit more of a interesting little, not a bunch of climbing equipment necessarily, but just a different flavor.
We did have a couple of families ask last week to Tasha about the potential of an entirely outdoor cohort. So whereas we have ladybugs and hummingbirds and whatever, could we have a group that literally just was outside all the time? Which is something that we're talking about and thinking about. Obviously, if it rains, that makes the outdoor cohort challenging, but that's also part of what our goal is for all of the classes. Like we've talked about painting the stumps different colors so that you can still find a red circle to sit on or an orange circle to sit, things like that are spaced out, and trying to do as much of that outside as possible, just because that makes everybody more comfortable. It's more child friendly, and it makes it just that much lower. The virus doesn't, from what we know, doesn't spread nearly in the same way outside, where wind and people can all be facing one direction, that kind of thing. So that's something that we're constantly trying to figure out too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Trying to be flexible and maintain the flavor of the acorn. So just little things will pop in our heads, like we were talking about Dad's Days. And maybe instead of Dad's Days at school, like you would normally come into the classroom, maybe in October we have a Dad's Night and we do a playground with activity stations, and you can come be outside and do some fun things. So we want to retain traditions and the fun stuff about the acorn, but we just have to kind of rethink and pivot and just be super flexible. But it's all good to hear where you are and what your thoughts are. Certainly. Anybody else?
Question. I assume summer school will go this way as well?
Yeah, so we are going to try a little summer camp. We have 15 children signed up, and we just want to kind of practice. We wanted a small group it's about 25% of what our normal enrollment for a summer camp would be. And we want to see, how does this work with our, protocols of doing the checklist, of taking temperatures and playing on the playground. Somebody asked me, about themes, because we usually have these kind of fun themes for summer school. And I said, our theme is normalcy. We're going to have housekeeping for a dramatic play. We're going to have, water tables outside and different things, because I think that children are craving just the environment without us putting a lot of flair on it right now. So we're gonna just try and see how it goes with some of these protocols in place.
Cool. Will the HVAC thing be in by then?
Hopefully.
Okay.
It's not supposed to take long. Once surprisingly, Rich upgraded the one that I had looked into. So they're tracking down the LED kind now. That is got a longer warranty on it. So once they get those, we're having 4 of them installed as soon as we can get them.
Thank you.
They're pretty neat. Anybody have questions about those things? I have a spec sheet on it if anybody's got anything in particular. I'll send you a link, Serena, and show Roxana.
I have to run.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, I think that in reading the materials and listening to you guys, I mean, you've obviously done a lot of work. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys have done to try to make it as safe as an environment as possible. Right.
Thank you.
And I'm sure Joe is probably not returning your phone calls. And so, but
she got out.
Yeah, she got out and disposed of that phone. And has an
Somehow
unlisted
she saw the
number
writing
now.
on the wall.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for this and all the effort you guys put in.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
That made me a little verklempt. I don't know if I said it on here about I'm suffering from PTSD and decision fatigue. And I know all of you feel that, like it's a decision now to go to the grocery store, whereas before it was brainless. And every little thing seems like a decision now that you have to really contemplate. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. And if any of you have questions that you didn't want to ask in the group, just shoot me an email or you can call my cell, text me. My cell is 210-854-1967. Happy to text or call or email back any sort of answer I might have. So let me see. I think I can do I'm going to take a picture. I love that. I think that we all have we've had a lot of great interest in these. So that's.
Mm-hmm. And we'll put, this one's recorded and the one from last week is recorded. We'll have both of those up on our website and on our Facebook page. I'll do that this week. So feel free to share those, or if you have loved ones who were interested and couldn't be on, we'll be available.
Rachel, I will send your sister the spec sheet. I don't know where she went.
Well, any other questions that we can answer for anybody? Okay.
Anybody else have news like Amanda had news this year? Here, it's been so strange to not see families. I miss seeing everybody. It's fun. I want to see all your kids. Lauren, where's Everett? Is he running around?
He's probably asleep on the couch by now.
It's crazy. Well, yeah, just know, we're here if you have questions or comments or anything we can do. We are trying to get it in place. They hopefully are putting the, hey, Gwen. Hey, Max. So fun to see little people. Hey, Justin. Getting the fence put in. Jeff Vexler donated the fencing material for the other side. Hi. Oh, it's so fun to see everybody. Hey, Everett.
Say hi.
Hey.
What you doing?
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm so glad.
It's a miracle. He's awake.
We miss all of you people.
Hi.
Hey, Silas. Super. It is fun. Well, Serena, if you and Roxana want to have a chat in the next few days, we can do that too. I know that y'all are.
That definitely sounds like a good plan. We had a short meeting the other day, so we've canceled summer camps and are kind of revamping and assessing how we're going to do our school year too. So
Did you
the more
cancel
info-
July, Serena? Did you end up
Yeah.
canceling July? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm on unemployment now.
Yeah.
So, it's all just a work in progress. We're all getting through it. And
Yeah.
Roxana's definitely feeling the pain. She's missing everybody so much. So it's been hard, but
Yeah.
we're figuring out how we can work through things and just like y'all figure out the best policies to make it the best school year.
I think all education is going to change at this point. From large schools, I think we're seeing that those are more of a problem in this instance to who knows what. I mean, and I take my daughter to college August 15th, so
Oh gosh, good
it's going to
luck.
be, it's a leap of faith, isn't it?
Yes, big time.
So, but let me know anything that y'all, any ideas you have. We can do field trips through Brackenridge Park, maybe.
I have
That'll
a
be it.
question. I just have a question about the required forms. Is that available online already?
The ones like every year that we do, emergency forms and things.
Yeah.
I think Carrie's got most of them ready. I don't know if they're online yet or not. I know that we were getting the policy handbook and everything kind of tweaked and done to reflect the COVID flyer. And maybe, some of the stuff that's usually in there as far as like birthday snacks and things. Everything's going to be a little different this year, but we're going to do everything we can to have it still feel like a great fun place. So,
And if they're not up yet, they should be within the next. I just texted Carrie to ask her, but if they're not up yet, they should be up, I would assume, within the next couple of weeks. We're just, we added like a COVID policy and some of that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully soon, if not yet.
it's a good question. All questions are good. Rachel, who's on your lap?
This is my sister's youngest.
Like, you had a really big something happen.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, how did I not hear about that? Like a whole other person.
And between my kids and her, there's 7, so you have to just keep passing them around. But we're at my parents' place in Cloudcroft this week.
Oh, fun. That's great. Yeah, well, I will send you.
Yeah, she was sitting behind this screen listening, so just taking.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. So it works in that it takes the humidity in the air, the water, and it sends it through this reflective electromagnetic frequency that changes the H2O to an H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, that's sort of aerosolized, and that then is blown out into the classroom and is a natural disinfectant.
That's cool.
It really does a lot. I mean, it's been proven to kill 99.9% of MRSA and SARS and MERS. So, I mean, it's already working on some coronaviruses. So hopefully it will work on COVID. And it's, I think one of the big worries for kids is if they were to get COVID on top of influenza or another, germ type thing, that is the bigger danger with kids. So hopefully if we can eradicate some of the other common illnesses, it does a good job.
Yeah, one of the studies said it decreased school absenteeism by 20% or 15% or something like that. And I feel like even if we can remove allergens or people don't have sniffly noses that make us all panic, like that would be a win in and of itself.
Yeah, it also said it worked on cedar fever.
There you go.
So can't be bad, but I will get that to y'all. Well, I'm gonna go home.
Thank you all so
And-
much. Truly,
yeah.
if you have any questions, let us know. Email us, call us. We are always available.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. So anyway, thanks you guys. It was great to see your faces and to hear your thoughts. I
Thank
miss
you.
you all. All right. Bye guys.